Hi guys! Alright, so today's gonna be a really special tutorial. It's something I've been trying to figure out for a really long time. So before I actually get to the tutorial, this was a collaborative effort to bring these techniques together to you guys. But the actual main technique for this tutorial was taught to me by a good friend of mine. His name is Frederick Duquette. So I'm gonna bring up my Chrome over here, and I've got him here. He's got an Instagram page, so go ahead, check him out. That's FVCKRENDER, and he does some really cool artwork with Cinema 4D. He's been messing around with Marvelous Designer as well, and even messing around with some VR, with the VR Oculus Medium. So go ahead, show him some love. This guy basically showed me the technique for what I'm about to show you guys, which I honestly find to be revolutionary because there's honestly no documentation out there, guys. We tried, we looked on so many websites, and we couldn't find a good solution for doing something like this. So what I'm going to be showing you guys today is, you can see I'm in Marvelous Designer over here, but this was one of the trickiest things to try and figure out to do with Marvelous Designer, and that was creating a T-pose that transitions into an animation. Now, for some of you guys, if you bring in mocap data in here, or if you've been creating a garment, you've been creating that garment on a character that's currently in the T-pose. But if you bring mocap data into here, that mocap data is not going to be in the T-pose. So you're going to have a really hard time repositioning clothing on that posed mocap character before you actually start the simulation. So this is going to save you a bunch of time, a bunch of headaches. It's going to save you a lot of hair as well, and a lot of stress. So I'm going to be showing you the techniques. So the programs we're going to be using today is DAZ 3D. We'll be using Mixamo to get some mocap data so that we can get our character to move. We'll be bringing that mocap data into Marvelous Designer, and the awesome thing is, as you can see, Marvelous Designer relies on simulation so that clothing is reacting to the character's movement as well. So we get something that looks really nice and realistic. And from there, we're going to export this, take it over to Cinema 4D to show you guys that we can actually export garment simulation out of Marvelous Designer and take it to other 3D programs to render it with the program of our choice. So I'll be rendering that with Octane Render. But these are going to be some really useful tips and tricks. I'm sure this is going to be useful to some of you guys that are messing around with the Mixamo animations or any kind of animation or mocap data where you don't have a T-pose to work with in the beginning of your animation. So I hope you guys are ready. And that was a long intro. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so the main tool for our tutorial today is going to be DAZ 3D, because DAZ 3D is what we're basically going to be using to get our 3D character, and it's also the program we're going to be using for creating that T-pose that transitions into an animation. Now there's also going to be a little cherry on top of the cake that I'm going to include in this tutorial, and I'm going to be showing you guys how we can actually combine Mixamo animations together within DAZ 3D. Now Mixamo had a feature like this before and they decided to move it. I don't know why, but I'm going to be showing you guys that we can actually combine animations together within DAZ 3D to create really complex and long animations that we can use. Right, so without further ado, let's get started, guys. If you've got your DAZ open, probably your interface might look different to mine. If you want to use the exact same interface as mine, you can go to Workspace, select Layout, and I'm using Hollywood Boulevard. That's just to, in case there's any confusion, maybe you guys have seen buttons in different places. But anyway, here by your actors and wardrobe, we are going to use a Genesis 2 character. So I'm using the Genesis 2 base female. So I'm going to double click and load that in. Now from our trial and error with my buddy Frederick Duquette, we figured out that we can't use Genesis 3 characters for some reason. They don't work with these methods, so you're going to have to use a Genesis 2, either the male or the female, for this to work. So once you've got your character loaded in, the first thing we want to do is we want to go to File and we want to export an FBX file. So I'm going to go to my tutorial folder here, Files, FBX. So I'm going to say female tutorial and then click on Save. And these are my following settings, my FBX export settings. Figures, props, animations are selected. I've got FBX 2012 binary, embed textures, collect textures, allow degraded scanning, and allow degraded scaling. Then click on accept. Alright, so that's our character that we're going to be using. Now, we want to get this character rigged. So there's this awesome website that is called Mixamo. Now, Mixamo used to be a paid product from Adobe, but you can now use it for free as long as you've got a Adobe account. So go ahead, create an Adobe account. It's mixamo.com. Once you've signed in, what you guys want to do is you want to go to the store. So just let that load. And then you guys want to click on upload. You guys want to click on upload. And you want to go and find that folder of yours with the FBX file. And all you want to do is just click and drag that into this area over here. And then it's going to upload your file. You'll see a percentage counter. And once it's completed, you guys are going to see a message like this that's going to tell you your character is ready to use, and all you have to do is make this my current character. So you would click on that. It's going to load your character in. It's going to load your character into this workspace, and once your character is loaded in, you're going to see your character in this view over here. So the next thing we want to do is just to explain Mixamo briefly. It automatically rigs the character for you so that this character can actually start moving. So you'll see over here there's an animation tab. You guys are still going to be on this window, but I'm just showing you the animation tab over here. So there's basically a huge library of mocap data that you guys can select and download from. So there's tons of different categories, from dancing, fighting, even idle animation, sequences, whatever you guys want. You can just search, go into that search bar and maybe type something that you're particularly looking for. So you guys are still on this screen. So what you would be doing here is you're going to click on Find Animations, and it's going to bring up this window. So we're going to try and find an animation that we want to use. So I've already got my animation downloaded, which is, I've got a few of them, but you guys can download anything over here. So in order to do that, let's say you found this animation jogging. So you want jogging. Anyway, I've already downloaded that. So I'm going to choose picking up object. So I just have to wait for that to load. And then good rule of thumb, sometimes this trim is default on 100, and you can bring it all the way. You want to bring it all the way to the right to this, as far as you can go. Sometimes it goes to 150. And then a good rule of thumb is sometimes these animations can be sped up when they export it from Mixamo. So I generally tend to put overdrive on 40 just to slow it down just a little bit. And once you guys are ready, and this is the animation that you want, you can see there's a lot of stuff you can adjust here. The object height, overdrive, they've all got their own unique sliders for their own animations. But once you're ready, click on Add to My Assets. And there we go. And then click on View and Download. It's going to take you to the next window. And what we want to do is we want to click on Queue Download. And this is important. Our download settings, we want it as a FBX, 30 frames per second with the skin and no keyframe reduction. Then click on Queue Download. It's going to take you to another window. And there we go, picking up objects. I'm just going to tick to select that, and then click on download, and we'll let that particular mocap animation download. So I'm just going to make another folder here. I've been collecting a bunch of these animations to use in the future. So picking up object, and I'm going to let that download and finish download for me. So I'll click on save and just let that download, and we'll resume from there. Okay guys, so once you've got your animation downloaded from Mixamo, head back to DAZ, and I hope you guys have still got your character open. If you don't, just reopen DAZ and open up that Genesis 2 base female again. Alright, so it's time to actually show you guys the technique for creating a tpose that transitions into that Mixamo animation, and we're going to be doing all of that within DAZ 3D. So what we want to do is you want to go to the Pose and Animate tab. And now here at the bottom here by Animate Light, you'll see your Genesis 2 female over here. Now I'm going to right click in this open gray area over here, and I'm going to go to Create Any Block from Studio Keyframes. and that brings up this window. You want to leave these default settings selected and click on done. So that's going to create this blue block, which is basically any block that's created for the tpose. And now we can go ahead and actually import our mocap data into there. So file, import, and let's see, what am I going to use in the tutorial? I'll go with a thriller dance. Okay, so I'm going to click thriller, click open, and now this window pops up. Now it's really important that you change this from animation to mixamo.com and click on OK. It's going to load that in, and now we want to make sure we click in on this bottom one, which is the mocap data. And once that is selected, we want to right click and create an block from studio keyframes. Leave this default, click on done, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to create an any block for that animation. So now we want to left click on this block. It'll go gray like this, and then we want to right click on that block and say copy, and we want to go back to our top character over here with the tpose. In this area over here, right click and say paste. So basically what we have done is we've keyframed or created an any block for the tpose, and then it's going to transition into that thriller animation. Now it took me ages. Well, not me. I have to give Frederick credit for this because he showed me this, but I didn't know it was this simple, guys. That's how you create a tpose that transitions into an animation. But we're not done yet. So go ahead, select that character, the mocap character with the animation, and delete it out of your scene because we don't need it anymore. Alright, so now the next step, and we're going to be doing some troubleshooting here that I want to show you guys. So I'm going to be showing you what happens if we don't adjust the pivots by the hip. I'll show you what happens to the animation. It starts going all wonky, and then I'm going to show you how to troubleshoot that. So we'll do that in the next part. Alright, so it's on to the next part, and this part is really important, guys, because this is going to determine whether your animations are going to look correct or if they're going to look really wonky and just really odd. So this was some trial and error that I figured out with Frederick to get on our Skype call, and this is basically going to give you the proper representation of your animation. So first thing I'm going to do is, you can see on the timeline, this isn't going through to the full animation, so I want to make sure I pull this right to the end so that it covers the entire animation. And now if I click on play, you'll see that it goes from the tpose into the animation. But if you look correctly, this looks really insane. You can see there, this is what's considered sliding, or what I considered it as is the animation is really messed up right now. And this is because it's affecting the pivot point on our character. I'm just going to stop the animation over there. That looks crazy. But this is affecting the pivot on our character's animation, that's making them slide all over the place like that. Like, look at the feet sliding all over the floor. It just looks really messed up. So to fix this, because you don't want to export this, guys, this is not a correct representation. To fix this, I'm going to bring this back to the start of my animation. Now here on the right, you want to go to your Genesis 2 female. There's a drop down arrow here. Click on that and then select hip. Now you guys are probably not seeing these gizmos. So to enable that, you want to go to Tools and enable Joint Editor so that you can see these gizmos. And then from here, what you want to do is you basically want to take the green gizmo over here and bring it right down to the bottom. So make sure that it's there by the ground, and then that should be good to go. So if I click on play, there we go. Our character is no longer sliding all over the place. We've got an accurate representation of our Mixamo animation, and we are good to go. So there's one more step after this that we need to do. I'm going to click on stop, bring this back to the beginning. We need to bake this animation. So I'm going to right click in this gray area and bake to studio keyframes. And then over here we want to say yes. Let that process run, and we are officially good to go. We've got our character, the pivot's been fixed, we've got an accurate representation, and that the animation's been baked. Now you have to bake your animation, because if you export this out of here, you're actually going to have no animation at all. So it's very important that you guys bake the animation. And from here I can just go to File, Export, and in my tutorial folder I've got a modified FBX, so I'll say female tutorial modified, and this is the FBX that we're actually going to be using in Marvelous Designer, which is perfect because we've got a, and again the settings are the same, we've got that T-pose in the beginning and it transitions into the animation, as you can see. So that's perfect. But before we actually go over to Marvelous Designer, I just want to show you guys one more small trick that we can actually continue building onto this animation to make it even more complex before we export it out of here. Alright. Okay guys, so you can see I've gone back to where we started with our T-pose. So I came into the pose and animator, I right clicked and I created an anti-block for the T-pose. Now this is going to be an absolute gem guys, because Mixamo does not allow you to combine animations together, but you can actually do that in DAZ, which I think is so awesome. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to import a couple of animations, but I have to do it one by one. So I'm going to import let's say jog. So I'll import the jog, make sure mixamo.com, make sure I select that bottom one, right click, create an anti-block, keep these settings default, left click to select it, right click, copy and paste it at the top. And now this mocap character I can delete it. And now let's bring in another animation. So we've got jogging, so we want it to jog, and when she's finished jogging we want it to cry. Okay, because she's been jogging for way too long, her feet are hurting and she needs to go home right now. Okay, so there's the cry animation, right click, create any block, click on done. Now I'm going to left click to select that, copy and paste at the top, select that mocap character in the workspace and delete. Now it's very important, if you're combining multiple animations, you want to fix that pivot, that hip pivot point only at the end, once you 100% if that you've got all your animations in place and this is what you want to use. Because I've noticed if you try and like if I edit that pivot point right now by the hip into the correct position and I import some new data, it tends to mess it up guys. So just do this right at the end, and I want to make sure this is also at the end over here. So now she's going to jog and start crying. Again, if I just play it like this without adjusting the pivot, she's going to be sliding all over the place as well, as you can see, and it just looks messed up. So go back to the beginning, take that pivot and put that pivot here by the ground, and now it's good to go. So as you saw over there guys, we've got the jogging animation and then she cries. So you can create some really long and complex animations for your characters by combining them like this, and I think this is absolutely amazing that we can do all of this within DAZ. So yeah, and the thing is you can actually stack animations on top of each other. So if I wanted it to run longer, I could now again this might mess it up because remember I said you only adjust that hip at the end of your animation sequence, but I'm just showing you guys you can copy and paste, and we can do that 3 times. So she's gonna jog for quite a distance now, so I'm gonna have to zoom out here quite a bit, but she's gonna jog for quite a distance before she stops. So you can see she's jogging, and that was 3 jog animations. So we can stack them on top of each other to create really long animations or something complex, and then she's gonna cry there at the end. So yeah, and then once you guys are done with that, you're just gonna right click and bake to studio keyframes, click on yes, and then you are going to file and export that FBX out of DAZ. And then we're done with DAZ. We've got our character, we've got our animation set up with the T-pose that goes into the animation, and now we can head over to Marvelous Designer. Alright guys, so now we're in Marvelous Designer, and this was the character that was at the beginning of the tutorial, this male character, and I created this hoodie, this entire garment for him. And I just had it in the beginning just to show you guys that it goes from the T-pose into that animation, and just to show you how the garments are simulating with the movement of the character as well. So we'll be doing the exact same thing within Marvelous Designer. Obviously not the same outfit. I'm just showing you the techniques. So I need to make sure I'm also using the correct character, because this is a male and we were using a female. So I'm going to say avatar, delete all avatars, file, new, click on no. Right, so once you've got your blank slate over here, I'm going to go to file, import the FBX. Now you want to make sure that you are importing your modified FBX, not the FBX you uploaded to Mixamo, that modified FBX that we just exported out of there. So I've got this one over here. And then important, your import settings, animation should be selected, cache animation, and make sure you click auto scale. If you don't select this, your character is going to come into the scene really large, and that can reduce your simulation, no, that can increase your simulation time. So it's important that you put auto scale on. Then just click on import, click on OK. It's going to load in your character. And there we go. Update the geometry, and my character is officially in the scene. Now let's say you've created your garment, just to show you guys that the garment will be simulating with the movement. Let's create something really quick. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. Just draw out a rectangle like this. Go to your internal circle, draw an internal circle here in the middle. Right click, convert it to a hole, go into your 3D space over here. And now guys, if your gizmo is not the same as mine, I think, yeah, you go to gizmo and mine's on local coordinate, because sometimes it's on this really odd screen coordinate that's really annoying. So just adjust that, put it on local coordinate, and you're good to go. Rotate that, bring it over here, and I'm going to press spacebar shortcut to simulate. And now we've got a garment on our character, and I'm just going to change the color here as well, just to see it a little bit better. And yeah, like I said, you've got your garment created, and we want this garment to move and simulate with the movement of our animated character. So we're going to go to this drop down arrow here, click on animation, and there we go. This blue bar over here indicates that there is animation on our character, and we've baked that animation as well. So all we have to do is click on this icon over here, and you'll see that it's recording, and it's going to record the movement with that garment on our character here as well. Now, because of the way this garment was created, it's going to be like all over the place, but this is just to show you guys that yes, it is possible to get some animation in here and get your garments to simulate to the movement of a animation as well. So this garment or this piece of fabric is going insane right now, but again, it's just to show you guys the techniques. So I'm going to let this go right till the end, and we'll continue from there. Okay, so the animation finished recording. Now just a few buttons here to mention. Yours probably won't be on real time. Yours is probably on frame stepping. I'm going to activate the loop so that it keeps going through the whole animation. And now on frame stepping, it's extremely fast. But if I put this on real time and click on play, it's going to give me probably a much more accurate representation of what the animation is actually going to look like in another program. Now, of course, if you wanted to slow this down, you would have had to do that by Mixamo. But you can slow this down in Marvelous Designer just to see how it would look. So you can go half, you can even go a quarter, or you can speed this up like crazy. And now she's just had a dose of adrenaline, and she's going insane. But anyway, that's good to go. Now you guys can see we uploaded the character, got it from T-pose to this state. Now this, again, obviously the T-pose really comes in handy when you've got really complex garments like that one I showed you earlier with the hoodie, so that you don't have to reposition anything. But yeah, we're good to go. We've got the garment simulating to the movement. I'm really happy with that. And what we can do from here now is go back to simulation. What I would do if I wanted obviously better quality with my garment, I would add some thickness to this garment as well. So I'd go add thickness, put that on 2. But the particle distance, I would drop this to like 10, and I would drop it to 10 and then record that again from the beginning. But that's only if you guys want a really good quality on your garments. So as you can see now, I just messed up there a little. So I'd put that on like 10. I'd put it on a low particle density to see how the garment simulates, and then I will come back and put that on a higher density to just get better quality. So there again, I'm just undoing that. So again, I'll put on a low density to see how it simulates, and then once I'm happy with that, and once it's still on the T-pose, I'd go back into simulation, put my thickness on there too, and then bring this down to like if you want really good quality, you'd put it on 5, but your simulation time is going to be super slow. So just for tutorial purposes, I'm going to leave mine on 20. And then in the next part, I'll show you how to actually export this out of here and get it into another 3D program. I'm going to be using Cinema 4D. Alright guys, so I've jumped back to my previous project. There was that character that you saw in the beginning, and I'm going to be showing you 2 different formats that I export in. Now the one format, which is going to be the Alembic HDF5 format, is going to be very useful if you're just exporting a single piece of a garment. So if you've created something and it's just a single piece of a garment, then that particular format is going to be perfect for you. And then the second format is going to be if you need to export multiple pieces of a garment. So as you can see over here, we've got this red hoodie over here, and I want these materials to be separated. Now the only downside with using this format means that you guys are going to have to get your hands on an external plugin. Especially if you're using Cinema 4D, it's an external plugin called Riptide. So just go on Chrome, type in Riptide, I think Riptide Pro. Let me just bring that up here. Riptide Pro by Skin Props. They do have a free version, but I'm not sure if they allow MDD import in the free version. But it's this plugin over here. It's called Riptide Pro. So unfortunately, you guys are going to have to get your hands on this if you want to export separate pieces of a garment. But in the end, you are supporting these guys as well, so I guess that's a good thing. But if you guys know maybe another method on how you can actually import MDD cache files into Cinema 4D, on an OBJ, then you'd be able to do it for free. Now I don't know how to do that, and I'm using the plugin because it's really simple to do, and it just speeds up the process for me. But anyway, let's get started here, guys. And after this segment, I'm going to be showing you how I export using the Alembic format. So for this section right now, I'm showing you how I'm going to export separate pieces of the garment. Okay, so once you've got your animation recorded over here, we are good to go. So I'm going to bring that back to the beginning. I'm going to go to simulation, and now I'm going to select everything in my view. Now there's 2 files I want to export here. I want to export the OBJ, and the OBJ as a single file, but even though it's going to be a single file, in Cinema 4D these pieces are still going to be separate that I've allocated over here. The pieces that have different textures on them. So you can see I've got 3 different textures, so that's going to be 3 separate objects in Cinema 4D. So keep that in mind. In order to separate your pieces, you're going to have to apply different materials. So you would just add something like that, go to your fabric and go down to fabric and assign it just to separate it. But anyway, I'm happy with this. I'm going to select everything, go to File, Export, OBJ selected, and I'm going to find my folder over here. So I've got MDD cache file, and I'll just say garment, click on save. And now over here I want to say select patterns. I want it as a single object. Remember, it's been separated according to those textures that's applied to it. I want it on thick, unified UV coordinates. My scale is in centimeters for DAS. This is on 100%, and I don't need to tick anything else here. But I mean, okay, if I want these exact same colors to be applied on here, I think I would do this. I would just say save with texture files, click on OK, and let it export the OBJ. And now to get the animation, we want to export an MDD cache standard file. So click on that, go to your folder, and I'm going to say garment and click on save. Now over here I want single object, thick, unified UV coordinates, scale centimeters. I want the animation for the entire region, and save it with texture files, diffuse color combine on texture. That's fine, and then click on OK, and it's going to export your animation out of Cinema 4D. So might take a little bit of time, not too long. But while that's exporting, let me jump over to Cinema 4D, because in the meantime, let me just get rid of this. In the meantime, I can go File, Merge, and I can import that OBJ. Okay, I need to unzip that. I can import the OBJ and open. And my scale, very important guys, I put my scale on 1, it's in centimeters, just so everything's importing at the right scale. So just also pay attention to your scale here in Cinema 4D. So I've selected 1, I'm going to click OK. There we go. Now as you can see here on the right, those different textures we applied, those texture selections, we are able to select over here, so these can have their own materials applied to them. So that's really good. That's really going to come in handy, and you'll see that in a moment. So MDD cache has been exported. Now from here, I select the object, I go to plugins, Riptide Pro, and there's an option here called import.mdd file. So I'm going to select that and go to the MDD, click open. Over here, I'm going to say scale up mesh. This is usually on 1000. Just put it on 1, and you want to import at the current frame, because remember we put that all the way back to 0, so we're good to go. Import at current frame. Click on OK, and now it's basically baking or importing that animation into Cinema 4D, and you'll see all of those keyframes on the timeline in a moment. So just wait for that to finish, and there we go. Okay, so as you can see guys, here's all of our keyframes. Everything's been baked, our animation is good to go, and we've got that selection as well. So I can create a shade over here, and just double click on that, drag that onto that selection, double click that, let's create a new shader, maybe red, drag that onto there, and as you can see, we can have different selection sets, and it's completely animated. Now I'm going to go ahead and import my collider file, but you'll see in the next video, the next segment that's coming up, I'm going to be showing you how I export colliders out of DAZ as well. So you don't have to worry about that. So you'll be seeing how I do the Alembic HDF5 format. That's if you've got a single garment, and I'll show you the collider as well. But this segment was just really important if you guys are working with multiple pieces on your garment. So let me just import my collider. So mail.dae, and I want this to be on 1, and import animation ticked. Click on OK. I want to make sure I'll bring that back to the beginning. Now you see there was a little bit of an error here with the syncing up. So I need to click back on my object over here, and these keyframes, these needed to start at 0 and not 40, because you can see that tpose is still visible for quite some time. So just to fix this, let me re-import. Sorry, click on new. Let me import my collider, and then let me import OBJ. I'm going to make sure that I'm at 0. Can bring this all the way here, and then plugins, Riptide, MDD. Go and select the MDD. scale up. I want to import at current frame. I think just to be sure, I'm going to import at frame 0. I think I made a mistake earlier by saying import at current frame, because I think I was on 40 and that's why that happened. So I'm going to import at frame 0 just to make sure everything is 100% correct. I'm still seeing some errors there. It seems to be clipping through the character. But now it's fine. So that was only a visual, seems like just a visual error. So if I open up Octane just to make sure, let me see. Okay, so there seems to be some crazy artifacts on here. But now this low poly that you see over here is the result of a very low particle distance, if I'm correct. So let me just make another shader here. Yeah, this that looks so extremely low poly is because we simulated our animation on 20. So it's really important that you guys put that your simulation for your garment on at least something like 10 or even 5. 5 would be the best, because as you can see here, we've got a pretty low poly look and feel to our garment, which is not going to be ideal unless this is the type of look you're trying to go for. But again, I would just go back in here and put that particle distance on something like 10 so that I can just get better quality for my garments in Cinema 4D. But as you can see, I just showed you how to troubleshoot an error that I encountered earlier with the keyframes on the timeline. So everything's set up and good to go. It's just we need, obviously we're going to have to use better quality for our garments. But okay, so for the next video, the next segment, I'll show you how I use a Lembic HDF5 to export single garments, single pieces of a garment, and then how I do the collider, and then the tutorial will be wrapped up. Okay. Okay guys, so to actually get this garment out of here, all we have to do is select the garment, go to File and Export, and we're going to export it in Alembic HDF5. And this format is basically going to export the garment with the animation that was simulated in Marvelous Designer. So I'm going to go to my folder over here, Files, and I'll just say Garment Piece. Now you guys can also see that there's a collider folder over here, which is actually going to come in handy for Cinema 4D or maybe any other program as well. And I'm going to be showing you why we're going to use that collider. Okay, and save that out. Garment piece. Alright, so with these settings, I put mine on thick, unified UV coordinates. I leave the frames per second on 30. I put mine on centimeters for DAS, scales on 100%, and I click on OK. So let that export out. Alright. Okay guys, so again, I'm hoping you've still got your DAS opened. Probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, that you should not be closing the programs. You could minimize them, but don't close them, because this animation or animation from earlier, well actually mine's gone right now, so I'm going to have to do this from the beginning as well. But once you've got your animation, everything set up, and you've baked those frames, you're going to want to go to File and Export a collider format for your character. So I'm going to actually have to do mine from scratch. So if for any reason you guys close your program or you don't have that file available, you can see how I'm going to do it from the beginning as well. So again, load in a Genesis 2 female, go pose and animate, animate timeline, right click, create any block, file, import. I want to import the Thriller Dance, Mixamo, Select that, right click, create any block, copy and paste that at the top, and select the Mixamo animation, delete that, adjust my pivot point on the hip down to the ground, bake to studio keyframes, and I'm good to go. So once you've got your animation like this, oops, that wasn't right at the end, so I'm going to bring that right to the end, and again right click, bake to studio keyframes. Okay, so once you got your animation still in here, this you should have probably done before we actually went over to Marvelous Designer, but it's fine guys. You can see I did this from the beginning. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to export a collada. So Files, collada, female tutorial. Now you'll see why I'm using the collada format. And now when the collada export options comes up here, you want to click on show individual settings, to tick animation, include transformations, and include morphs. And these other settings should be ticked as well. Change this to female and click on accept and let that export. Now I'll show you why. Maybe you guys won't have this problem on other 3D programs like 3D Studio Max, but in Cinema 4D you have to export a collada. So we've got our garment exported. Now I'm going to go to Cinema 4D. So the first thing I'm going to import is File, Merge. I'm going to go to my folder and I'm going to import, where is it? Okay, I saved it in the collada folder by mistake, but that Alembic HDF5, it's got .abc at the end, so I'm going to import that. Frame rate on 30, my scale's on 1 in centimeters. Click on OK. We've got our garment in here. Now I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to import our FBX, our modified FBX. I'm going to show you why I actually exported a collada, because that FBX that we use in Marvelous Designer does not work properly in Cinema 4D. It doesn't display the textures properly. So I'm going to merge, go to Files, go to Modified FBX, and import this. These are my FBX import settings. What you'll see now, I'll import this. Everything's going to be fine. The animation's perfect on the cloth, animation's perfect on the character. But for some reason, as you can see over there guys, we've got the entire animation. Everything's perfect, right? Cloth, characters animated, and we can see the texture on our character in the viewport. But as soon as I open up Octane, the FBX does not display the texture on our character. Now if anyone knows why this is happening, I would appreciate that, but we don't get any texture, so this is why I decided to export a collada. So I'm going to go ahead, delete this female, and go File, Merge, and let's go and get our collada file. .dae is the collada. And now by collada you want to make sure import animation is ticked. Click on OK, and you'll see now as soon as that imports into the scene, we've got texture on our character, which is really important. So down at the bottom here, we've still got textures from our FBX. To fix that, go to Function, Remove Unused Materials. And now all of these materials, you want to select all of them. This is if you're using Octane, guys, obviously. And go to Plugin, Cinema 4D Octane, and Convert Materials. Then go again to Function, Remove Unused Materials. And now we are good to go. And then those eyelashes that you see over there, to fix that, just go to the eyelash, go to Opacity, select that map, go into that map and invert it, and now you are officially good to go. So I can create a shade over here, Octane material, drag that onto our cloth, give it some property over here, maybe put a light in the scene, and you guys will be good to go. So maybe overhead light or whatever, just to show you guys very quickly. And then you'll be good to go, and you've got your animation, and you guys can set up that to render out. But there we go. We've got a animated character with the animated cloth. We exported the animation in tpose to animation. From tpose it transitions into the animation, which is extremely useful for Marvelous Designer. And then I've showed you guys Mixamo, which is a really awesome service for getting mocap data. And that was the entire process, guys. Again, this was a collaborative effort between Frederick Duquette and myself, and I hope these techniques really come in handy for you guys. And as always, thank you for watching the tutorials, and stay tuned for some more. Alright, goodbye.